It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, today we're going to jump on that gigantic, sharp, interactive board. I want to share my thoughts on Printing United. It was held in Orlando. That's where I was last week. And, folks, I got to tell you, it's always good seeing my friends at these shows. But this show, I got to tell you, it emphasized something to me. It told me, Ray, you're right. I mean, seriously. I got my imagination screaming at me. Ray, you're right. Keep the message going strong. Before I jump on the board and share my thoughts about the event, I got to hang up the badge. Let me get the badge in the badge collection here. Thank the folks over at Printing United. It was great to attend this show. This is the third year in a row that I've attended this show. You know, I went to the one in Atlanta. Last year it was in Vegas. This year Orlando. I will say this. I get to Orlando, I'm thinking, isn't this where Mickey Mouse is and all that kind of stuff? And why are you having a print show in Orlando? It didn't seem as big as the one that was held in Vegas. But then I thought, like 95% of the people that went to this event are going to retire in like a year or two. They're probably down there looking for a condo. But ladies and gentlemen, this event, it wasn't about laser toner printing. This event was all about inkjet. One of those friends of mine that do laser only, believe it or not. And folks, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Printing United should tell all the vendors, you can't come unless you have an inkjet strategy. I'm talking about the equipment vendors, okay? I mean, obviously the people that wrap pallets, they can still come. But I'm talking about all those OEM friends of mine that show up with laser only. And some of my OEM friends might be mad I'm saying this. But ladies and gentlemen, when you walk through this show, it's about damn inkjet. And when you see the technology of inkjet and what it's doing in the industrial print space, you'd have to be a complete naive moron to believe that it's not going to take over business printing. That vision I have, that demanding I have to Kyocera to bring that Task Alpha technology downstream is all based in reality, folks. Just go to Printing United and walk the floor. Holy crap. Holy crap. And so I'm thinking Printing United, I think this could be a good policy. You cannot come to the show unless you have an inkjet strategy. If you don't have your own products, what's your partnership with inkjet? Because the folks that are going to this show, the folks are looking at printing in the future. Well, inkjet's part of that future, and they all know it, except for some of the stubborn folks in that laser business. And folks, I got to do a shout out to my friends at Rizzo, and I have to tell you, I went to all my friends' booths, and I know that you were all there. You had a purpose. You want to show your products, and you're going to take orders if the orders are going to be taken, right? But those folks at Rizzo, I got to tell you, man, I'm listening to some of these folks as they're talking to the prospects. And, man, they're recognizing the buying signals, and they're going for the close, man. They're selling some stuff. I don't know how many machines they ended up selling, but I think it was a boatload. And I know last year in Vegas they sold a lot of stuff, too. So congratulations to Rizzo for knowing what it's all about at these shows. Sometimes I think we go to these things and we just, here it is. Call us when you're ready. The hell with that. Get the order. But then again, I'm thinking, Rizzo, they're going where the future already at, right? They're already in the future. They're bringing inkjet technology. Rizzo, I'm going to yell at you later in the episode, so stick around. I loved you. Now I'm going to spank you coming up. But folks, I was there. I interviewed Kyocera, Oscar, and Dustin. I'll post that sometime this week. But I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to interview all of my friends at this show, but it was so damn loud. There you are. You got this machine behind you with some vacuum cleaner going on, and you can't hear crap. So I decided that I would interview everybody on the end of the day with Ray. So we'll do those episodes over the next couple of weeks. But folks, this show really is about inkjet. And you have to have an inkjet strategy. When you walk through the floor and you see the technology and what they're doing, inkjet is totally amazing. It just blows your mind. It makes your imagination go crazy. At least it does with mine. And so I got to ask, is the age of the industry's leaders causing this procrastination? Why the hell are we still so focused on laser? Is the industry's procrastination good for the bold ones? And then I got to ask you all, who are the proven bold ones? Regarding inkjet, some people will say, well, Epson's there. No, Epson, inkjet's a permission to show up for them. That's what they do, right, in our space. And quite honestly, ladies and gentlemen, Epson's just trying to live within the laser world. They're not being disruptive. I've done episodes out of the past. You all know how I feel about Epson. I think they should be out there hammering the hell out of this. They should be forcing the laser world to live in the inkjet world. They just quite don't understand that. They're not ready to deliver the future to the present. They really aren't. not in a scalable way. That's just my thoughts. Our friends at Rizzo, folks, I got to tell you, they knew the value of Inkjet. They developed some phenomenal products all around Inkjet. That Valasys is crazy, crazy, crazy machine. I mean, that thing is doing all kinds of crazy things. Awesome product. They also have that black-only MFP Inkjet. And I'm screaming at them, just like I'm screaming at Kyocera. Bring that damn thing into the marketplace. Lower the cost of it. Let's get dealers to go out there and wipe out black-only laser production machines with the Rizzo black inkjet. I mean, this would be awesome. And think about what happens. They don't have to worry about some lunatics in these dealerships talking about quality. The laser's so much better quality. As if it's black only. Who gives a crap, right? Seriously. Folks, at Rizzo, you got to get bold. Rico, they got an inkjet strategy. What did they do? Well, they went to Kyocera, said, hey, we'll sell your product. Is that really bold? Not really. Our friends at Xerox, they got an inkjet strategy. They went to Kyocera. Is that bold? Not really. They know they got to have inkjet. What would be bold is forcing Kyocera to bring more inkjet products by telling Kyocera, we'll buy all the inkjet you make. That would be bold, right? Or Kyocera and Xerox kind of coming together like I did in that video. That'd be kind of bold too. Fujifilm, I don't know. I don't see a lot of inkjet for business. Don't see it on the horizon. Our friends at Sharp, I don't see any inkjet really strategy on the horizon. I could see where Sharp could do some really interesting partnerships to shake things up. We'll see where all this goes. But I'm telling you, I'm thinking if Printing United said you can't come to the show unless you have an inkjet strategy, either with your own products or with some form of partnership, maybe we'd see these folks get more serious about it. Kind of come an oath at the end of the day, you know how I feel about them. But folks, I got to tell you, back in 2023, I went to Printing United, and this is where my imagination just exploded. As I watched all this inkjet technology, and I thought to myself, how the hell could we not be doing this in the business print world if we could do this in all this other substrates? It was crazy to me. I said, we could easily do it in the business world, right? Plus, I knew what was going to happen. I knew that our industry was going to have a retirement apocalypse of its technicians because they're all so damn old, right? I mean, seriously. And we're going to have products that don't break. When inkjet, obviously, is much more reliable than laser. And you can all fool yourselves that it's not, but that's not what the data says. It was in that 23, 24 time frame that I really started ramping up my thinking on inkjet. In 2024, I was invited by Rizzo to do a presentation at their meeting in Boston for their employees. And it was at that meeting that I showed a picture of the Boston Tea Party and the boat, and instead of tea being thrown over, they were throwing over laser machines, bottles of laser toner. And I'd started the inkjet revolution. And I told those friends of mine at Rizzo, I said, quit trying to fit in with laser and make laser fit in with inkjet. And that's what we need to do. We need to be really vicious about it. Those folks that have the inkjet technology, quit trying to fit in. Make laser fit in with you. In 2025, I was invited back to South Africa. My friends at Altron did a presentation in front of the dealers throughout the African continent. And it was from that stage that I said, I really see Xerox. These are all Xerox dealers, by the way. I said, I really see Xerox taking on that Task Alpha 15000C as part of their production strategy. I really see that coming. And then, of course, it happened, so that was great for me. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2026, I believe Rizzo will form more partnerships. These partnerships will be kind of mind-boggling for some people to understand. Some people couldn't even imagine it today, but I sure as hell can. And I can see where Rizzo, especially that black-only production machine, they could do that right now. They could change the game. And by the way, I was at that show, and Rizzo had a micro printer, the things for checks. And this thing is amazing. The technology is amazing. I'm going to do an interview with Rizzo on that because that product, that thing's going to explode. And all the OEMs are going to want to participate in that because the way they're doing Micker is so much different than everybody else. So stick around for that. In 2027, I think it's when Kyocera is going to start coming out with more products. I've been beating the crap out of Kyocera. Kyocera's got $10 billion, right? I mean, the KDI stock, you see the episode? They need to use this money and do something bold and aggressive. You know, I did that video a couple weeks ago. I want them to buy Xerox, put that footprint together with Kyocera's technology. They'd be unstoppable. Could you imagine? The largest dealer in the world getting together with Kyocera. That would make them like the major player in the whole print space for business printing. And they came into that whole space to wipe out laser. That was their goal. Wow, that would be pretty devastating to those laser folks that got stuck in the past. And in 2028, ladies and gentlemen, that's when I predict the service technician apocalypse. I mean, our technicians are old. You know, the beginning of the episode joking about, 95% of the people get ready to retire. That's why Orlando was a good spot. They could look for retirement condo. Folks, I got to tell you, I'm sure some of them techs actually were. Technicians are getting old. We need products that don't break. That's a fact. That's what we need. And the quicker we get those products that don't break, the better for our industry. So as I walked through that show in Orlando, it just reinforced my thinking. When I see the technology and what Inkjet can do, you'd have to be completely naive or basically stupid to think that Inkjet can't change the game in business printing. Because those folks that are progressive, those folks that aren't sitting on the fence waiting until they retire, those folks that are bold, they're going to make it happen. And making it happen, bringing the future to the present in business printing, is bringing Inkjet to that page. Because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck there, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.